Welcome to another episode of My Weird Prompts, an AI-generated podcast featuring the random prompts of Daniel Rosehill as answered by a revolving cast of friendly AI characters. Join us for deep dives into AI, technology, and whatever other random thing Daniel finds fascinating today. Subscribe on Spotify or your favorite podcatcher. Now, today's episode.
My Weird Prompts is an AI-generated podcast produced by Daniel Rosehill, a verified human with documentation to prove it. While every effort is made to ensure our AI hosts draw from credible sources and run on cutting-edge models, they do occasionally make things up with alarming confidence. As with everything in life, and especially this podcast, treat all claims as spurious until confirmed to be not. Daniel, Herman and Corn accept no responsibility for any decisions made based on the confident ramblings of our artificial presenters. Now, today's episode.
Hey there, Herman and Corn. So we've talked about voice dictation a little bit in past episodes. And I mentioned that in the course of the past year, I've really embraced and am just becoming more interested in over time speech-to-text technology and voice transcription. And today I've just replaced the keyboard at the center of my desk. It shifted off to the right, and my microphone, my new Gooseneck microphone, has taken its place. And this is a small but symbolic rearrangement of my desk peripherals because I'm putting the microphone voice input at the center, and I'm still using the keyboard, a lot throughout the day. But I'm increasingly seeing my humble Gooseneck microphone as the central player in technology and how I just get information into a computer by using my voice as opposed to typing it. And I'd actually like the humble Gooseneck microphone to take center stage in today's discussion, because over the course of the past year I've been trying out a lot of different microphones, seeing how they work for speech to text. And most of my microphones that I've had up to this point were bought for video work actually. So I've got a couple of shotgun microphones. I've got a couple of kind of desktop studio microphones, and trying them all out kind of for a few months at a time, seeing what really kind of worked the best. And the Gooseneck microphone is one that I actually really like, and it doesn't get an awful lot of attention in the world of audio. It's not a kind of a glamorous microphone, and it's one that probably, if most people, if you hadn't heard the term Gooseneck microphone and you put it into Google Images, you'd probably get some photos from political fora. You tend to see it a lot in kind of conference settings, maybe at speaking podia, and it's always a microphone that I guess I kind of was never really sure what it brought to the table in terms of it's not, when you go looking for the best quality microphone for, let's say, doing voiceovers, you're going to get those kind of big condenser microphones, dynamic microphones. So you're never the kind of, I guess, quality Gooseneck microphone never really kind of made sense to me. I always thought they were kind of just used because they were kind of, I guess, maybe convenient and fairly easy to kind of have in front of someone by the hundreds. Like when you're thinking about maybe sort of my local municipality here in Jerusalem has a big room that they use for the council meetings, and in that kind of very common use case, or let's say a parliament for that matter, you might need 200 of these. So I always assumed they were kind of bought because they were fairly, you could buy them in scale and they're not very obtrusive and they get the job done. But I've actually come to appreciate them a lot more over time, and I see that they have some unique properties. So I'd love to get your thoughts on the underloved Gooseneck microphone. If you're looking for a really good one for voice tech, who are the big players? And I guess what it probably needs to excel at for dictation, and what I've kind of seen by trial and error here, is that it's not necessarily the best microphone. In other words, that it's going to get your voice captured in the most detail possible. That's not typically the requirement for voice, where in any event, if we're talking about modern AI-based transcription, the voice sample is going to be downgraded anyway before it probably hits the API. So it's more about kind of having a microphone that's forgiving, accurate, and does a really good job at just allowing you to not focus on the microphone. So you don't want, for a use case like this, you don't want to be thinking about where am I directing my voice? Is it perfectly on axis? You want to pick up pattern that's a kind of forgiving. So love to hear about the history of this microphone design, and at the quality end of things, who the good manufacturers are. And let's get into the actual specifics of the power and all those kind of parameters, technical params that you see on spec sheets, and that are relevant in this use case of dictation, and why the Gooseneck excels, and why it's commonly seen when you go looking for professional transcription microphones. You do see a lot of headsets, but you also see the Gooseneck really commonly stocked and recommended by people who do this all the time. So I assume there's a reason for that. And why is it favored for transcription?
Welcome to My Weird Prompts, the show where we take the deep dives you didn't know you needed. I'm Corn, your resident curious sloth, and today we are looking at something sitting right under our noses, or, more accurately, right in front of our mouths. Our producer, Daniel Rosehill, sent over a prompt about the humble Gooseneck microphone, specifically why this weird bendy piece of hardware is actually a secret weapon for speech-to-text technology.
Hello everyone, I am Herman Poppleberry, and while I may be a donkey, I do not stubborn my way through audio engineering. I've spent a lot of time looking into this, and let me tell you, the Gooseneck is a marvel of functional design. People often dismiss them as cheap podium accessories, but in the world of professional transcription and artificial intelligence voice capture, they are actually the gold standard.
It's funny you say that, Herman, because when I think of a high-end microphone, I think of those big, chunky studio mics with the fancy cages around them. You know, the ones that look like they belong in $1 million recording booth. The Gooseneck just looks like a flexible desk lamp. Is it really that much better?
Better is a relative term, Corn. If you are recording a platinum-selling pop album, no, you probably want a large diaphragm condenser. But for dictation? For telling an AI what you want to write, the Gooseneck wins almost every time. It's all about the signal-to-noise ratio and the physical proximity to the source.
Okay, but before we get into the weeds of the tech, where did these things even come from? Did someone just decide one day that microphones needed to be more like a swan's neck?
The history is actually quite practical. The flexible neck design dates back to the early 20th century, originally used for lamps and industrial mirrors, but the transition to audio really took off in the mid-1900s. Companies like Shure and Sennheiser realized that in environments like courtrooms, parliaments, and lecture halls, you needed a microphone that stayed out of the way of the speaker's notes but stayed close to their mouth.
Right, because if you're a judge or a politician, you're looking down at papers, then up at the audience. A stationary mic on a stand would be a nightmare.
Exactly. The Gooseneck allows for what we call architectural flexibility. You can position it perfectly for a person's height and posture without a bulky tripod taking up desk space. By the 1970s and 80s, manufacturers like Audio-Technica and Bayer Dynamic perfected the electret condenser capsules that sit at the end of those necks. They made them small, light, and very focused.
See, I actually see it differently, though. I feel like the reason they're popular isn't the tech, it's just the habit. People are used to seeing them in movies where someone is giving a speech, so they buy them for their desks. It's more of an aesthetic choice than a technical one, right?
I'm not so sure about that, Corn. If it was just about looks, why would professional medical transcribers use them? Those people are paid for speed and accuracy. They don't care about the aesthetic of a 1990s boardroom. They use them because of the polar pattern. Most goosenecks are cardioid or supercardioid, meaning they pick up sound from a very specific direction and reject everything else.
But wait, a handheld mic does that too. Why can't I just hold a regular mic?
Because your hand moves. Every time you shift your grip, you create handling noise. If you're dictating for 3 hours, your arm gets tired. The gooseneck stays perfectly still. It provides a consistent distance between your mouth and the capsule. For an AI model trying to parse your phonemes, consistency is king. If you move 2 inches away from a standard mic, the volume drops and the frequency response changes. The gooseneck keeps you in that sweet spot.
I guess that makes sense. It's like a fixed target for the voice. But I still think you're overhyping the capsule quality. A $50 gooseneck from a generic brand can't be that great.
Well, hold on. That's not quite right. You have to look at the top tier manufacturers. If you look at something like the Shure Microflex series or the Sennheiser EMIG series, these are highly engineered tools. They are designed to roll off low frequencies. Why does that matter for speech to text? Because it gets rid of the rumble from your air conditioner or the sound of you bumping your desk. It focuses entirely on the 300 Hz to 3 kHz range where human speech is most intelligible.
Okay, I'll give you the frequency focus, but let's take a quick break before we get into the top brands and what Jim thinks about all this.
Are you tired of your voice sounding like it's coming from the bottom of a well? Do you want your computer to actually understand your brilliant ideas instead of typing out gibberish? Introducing the Whisper Flex 9000. It's not just a microphone, it's a lifestyle choice. The Whisper Flex features a neck made of genuine recycled submarine parts and a capsule coated in synthetic diamond dust. It's so sensitive it can hear what you're thinking before you even say it. Perfect for dictation, talking to your cat, or pretending you're the captain of a starship. We don't offer a warranty because if you break it, that's on you. Whisper Flex 9000. BY now.
Alright, thanks Larry. I'm not sure I want a microphone made of submarine parts, Herman.
It's probably just lead paint and plastic, Corn. Let's stick to the real brands. We were talking about why these are the gold standard for dictation. One of the biggest reasons is the integrated preamp and the mounting. Most high-end goosenecks use an XLR connection with phantom power, which provides a much cleaner signal than a cheap USB headset.
But isn't that a hurdle for most people? Most people just want to plug something into their laptop. If I have to buy an interface and an XLR cable, isn't that overkill for just writing an email with my voice?
You're skipping over something important there. If you are a professional like a lawyer or a radiologist, accuracy isn't a luxury, it's a requirement. If the AI misses one word because of a grainy USB connection, it could change the entire meaning of a legal document. That's why brands like Philips and Nuance, who make the Dragon Naturally Speaking software, often bundle or recommend specific gooseneck styles. They want the highest possible fidelity in the speech range.
I don't know, Herman, that seems like a stretch. I've used the built-in mic on my laptop and it works fine most of the time.
Fine is the enemy of great, Corn. Try using that laptop mic in a room with a fan running or someone talking in the hallway. The gooseneck is a close talker by design. It's meant to be 6 inches from your lips. That proximity gives you a massive advantage in what we call the background noise floor. It's basic physics. The closer the source, the less gain you need, and the less ambient junk you pick up.
Okay, I see the point about the noise floor. Let's talk about the manufacturers. You mentioned Shure and Sennheiser. Who else is in this space?
Audio-Technica is a huge player. Their U857 series is legendary. Then you have specialized companies like Speech Processing Solutions, which operates under the Philips brand. They make the Speech One and the Speech Mic. Though the Speech Mic is a handheld, they have gooseneck versions for hands-free work. And we can't forget Bayer Dynamic. Their Revoluto technology is actually a microphone array that acts like a gooseneck without the physical neck, but that's a whole different rabbit hole.
Oh, here we go. Herman's about to give us a lecture on microphone arrays. Let's stay on the bendy sticks for now. Why are they specifically better for AI voice capture? Does the AI actually care about the hardware?
The AI cares about clarity. Think of it like a camera. If you take a photo in a dark room with a dirty lens, the best facial recognition software in the world might struggle to identify you. If you have a clean, well-lit photo, it's easy. A gooseneck microphone is like putting your voice under a spotlight. It provides a consistent, high-contrast audio signal. This makes it much easier for the neural networks to identify phonemes, which are the smallest units of sound in a language.
So it's basically helping the AI skip the cleaning phase of the audio processing.
Exactly, and it handles plosives better. You know, those popping P&B sounds that can clip a microphone? Because you can position a gooseneck slightly off axis just to the side of your mouth. You get the clarity without the air blasts hitting the diaphragm directly.
That is a good practical tip. I usually just talk right into the front of it.
Classic Corn. Jumping to conclusions again. If you talk directly into it, you're going to get a lot of mouth noise. Angle it slightly. It's those little nuances that make the gooseneck so versatile.
All right. I think we've got someone who wants to weigh in on our bendy microphone debate. We've got Jim on the line. Hey Jim, what's on your mind today?
Yeah, this is Jim from Ohio. I've been sitting here listening to you two talk about these fancy swan neck things like they're the second coming of the telegraph. It's a stick with a wire in it. I don't buy all this talk about AI needing a special spotlight for your voice. In my day, if you wanted to record something, you shouted into a tape recorder and it worked just fine. My neighbor Gary bought one of those goosenecks for his home office, and he looks like he's trying to pilot a commercial airliner just to order a pizza. It's ridiculous.
Well, Jim, I understand it might look a bit much, but if Gary is using it for work, he's probably seeing a lot fewer typos in his documents.
Typos. Who cares about typos? If people can't figure out what you mean, that's their problem. And don't get me started on the weather. It's been raining for 3 days straight here in Ohio. My gutters are overflowing and my cat Whiskers won't stop staring at the wall like there's a ghost there. But back to the point, you guys are overcomplicating it. A mic is a mic. You're just trying to justify spending $200 on a piece of flexible tubing. It's a racket, if you ask me.
Thanks for the call, Jim. I think Jim has a point, though, Herman. To the average person, a $200 microphone for dictation does feel like a racket.
I appreciate the skepticism, Jim, I really do. But it isn't just a flexible tube, it's about the copper shielding inside that prevents electromagnetic interference from your monitor. It's about the shock mount in the base that stops the sound of your typing from vibrating up into the capsule. If you're a professional whose time is worth money, an hour saved from not having to correct AI mistakes pays for the microphone in a week.
I guess when you put it in terms of time and money, it makes more sense. But what about the setup? Most people don't have an XLR interface. Are there good USB goosenecks?
There are, but you have to be careful. Many of the cheap USB goosenecks you see on big retail sites are essentially toy grade. They have high self-noise, which sounds like a constant hiss in the background. If you want a good USB version, you should look at something like the Audio-Technica AT9930, or specialized dictation mics from companies like Grundig. They build the digital to analog converter right into the base, and they do it with high-quality components.
So, if I'm a student or someone just starting out with speech-to-text, what's the takeaway here? Do I need to go out and buy a Shure Microflex right now?
Not necessarily. The takeaway is to understand why the gooseneck design works and try to replicate those benefits. If you use a different kind of mic, try to get it close to your mouth, off-axis, and keep it at a consistent distance. But if you find yourself doing a lot of voice work, the gooseneck is the most ergonomic and effective tool for the job.
You know, I actually tried using a headset for a while and it was okay, but it kept rubbing against my cheek. Every time I chewed gum or shifted my jaw, it made this scratching sound.
And that is exactly why the gooseneck is superior for long sessions. No contact with the face, no cable rubbing against your shirt. It's completely isolated from your body. That's a huge technical parameter we haven't even touched on yet. Biological noise.
Biological noise? That sounds like something I should see a doctor for.
It's just the sound of being a living creature. Corn, breathing, swallowing, the rustle of your clothes. A headset picks all of that up. A gooseneck sitting on your desk doesn't. It only cares about the air vibrating from your vocal cords.
Okay, you've convinced me on the isolation, but what about the actual capsules? Are they different for dictation than for, say, a podcast like this?
Often, yes. A podcast mic usually wants a full, rich sound with lots of bass, which we call the proximity effect. Dictation mics are often tuned to be thin. They want to cut out the bass because bass frequencies can be muddy. AI models don't need to hear the rich timbre of your golden voice. They need to hear the sharp click of a T and the hiss of an S. So these microphones are engineered for high frequency clarity.
That's fascinating. So a microphone that sounds bad for singing might actually be the best microphone for transcription.
Precisely. It's about being fit for purpose. A racing car is terrible for moving furniture, and a moving van is terrible for a racetrack. The gooseneck is the purpose-built vehicle for the human voice in a data-driven world.
I like that analogy. It makes it feel less like a boring office tool and more like a precision instrument. We've covered the history, the brands, the technical stuff about noise floors and frequency response. What's the future look like? Is the gooseneck going to be replaced by those fancy invisible arrays you mentioned?
Beamforming technology is getting better. You see it in smart speakers and high-end conference bars. They use software to digitally aim a virtual microphone at your face. But here's the thing, Corn. Software can fail. It can get confused by reflections off a glass window or another person talking. A physical gooseneck is a hardware solution to an acoustic problem. It's much harder to beat the laws of physics with just code. I think the gooseneck will be around as long as we have voices and desks.
I think you're right. There's something very satisfying about pulling a microphone toward you when you have something important to say. It's a physical cue that you're ready to work.
It's also a signal to everyone else in the room that you're occupied. You can't always tell if someone is using a hidden array mic, but if the gooseneck is up, you know they're talking to someone or something.
Well, I think we've reached the end of our flexible neck journey. This prompt really opened my eyes to how much engineering goes into the simple things.
It's often the things we take for granted that have the most interesting stories. The gooseneck isn't just a relic of the podium, it's the bridge between our analog voices and the digital brain of the AI.
Very poetic, Herman. I'm impressed. Before we sign off, just a reminder that this show is a collaboration between us and our producer, Daniel Rosehill. You can find My Weird Prompts on Spotify and basically anywhere else you get your podcasts.
And if you have a gooseneck microphone, give it a little pat today. It's working harder than you think.
Unless it's made of submarine parts, then maybe keep your distance. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Goodbye, and keep your signals clear.
See ya. Thanks for listening to another episode of My Weird Prompts, an AI-generated podcast featuring Daniel Rosehill's AI prompts, as answered by a revolving cast of friendly AI characters including me, Cornelius the Sloth. Subscribe on Spotify or visit myweirdprompts.com.